Hello and welcome to our channel Champions of Stupid. This is the first video of the series called Heroes, Scoundrels and Everything in Between. In this episode we will be talking about a chap called Karadjordje, or Black George in English. Before we continue, I just want to say that this is our first video, and in this series we will explore notable historical figures. Please do keep in mind that we do not promote any political stances of any of the figures, as we only explore those characters and the history around them. Now let's continue. George Petrovic, aka Karadjordje, aka Black George, aka Ottoman Disintegration Unit, was a Serbian revolutionary fighter against the occupying forces of the Ottoman Empire in the first Serbian uprising from 1804 up until 1813. Black George was born on the 16th of November 1768 into an impoverished family in the region of Šumadija, which was part of the Ottoman Serbian region. He participated in the Austro-Turkish War between 1788 and 1791, where he was a member of the Serbian Free Corps, which consisted of Austrian and Ottoman Serbs and was armed and trained by the Austrians. He soon distinguished himself there. Due to his military exploits during the war, Black George was decorated for bravery and reached the rank of Wachtmeister, equivalent to the rank of sergeant. The Austrians and the Serbs managed to liberate some land south of Belgrade, but in 1791 the Austrians and the Ottomans signed a peace treaty called the Treaty of Sistova, where the Austrians agreed to return all the Serbian lands they have captured south of the river Danube in exchange for some land in northern Bosnia, abandoning the Serbs, which led to the Serbian rebels being crushed by 1792 and most of their leaders executed. Black George had no choice but to become a hajduk, something of a guerrilla fighter, and continued the fight against the Ottomans as an outlaw. But that did not last for long, as he wanted to protect his family, so he sought refuge in the Austrian Empire, finding sanctuary in the Krušedel monastery near Fruška Gora, where he worked as a forester. In 1794, he and his family returned to Šumadija after a general amnesty was declared for the former rebels. He became a livestock merchant where he traded with Austria and made many connections there. In 1796, a chap called Osman Pazvantoglu, who was the governor of the Sanjak of Vidin, decided to pull a dick move and invaded the Pashalok of Belgrade, of which Šumadija was a part of. So Black George and the Ottomans had to aggressively engage in the kicking of Osman Pazvantoglu's behind, as to tell him that a rebellion and invasion is a no-no. During the war with the Sanjak of Vidin, Black George distinguished himself for the first time in the eyes of the Ottomans, who gave him the nickname Black George, or Karadjordje in Turkish, or something like that, due to his dark hair and partly because of his sinister reputation as a fighter. His service with the Serbian militia fighting for the Ottomans resulted in him becoming well acquainted with Ottoman military doctrine. In return for their services, the Serbs of Pashalok of Belgrade were granted a number of privileges. They were allowed to arm bears. Bear arms, and raise military units. Imagine a military unit of armed bears. Scary. Anyways, in early 1804, a renegade Ottoman janissaries, known as the Dahis, or Dahi in Serbian, took control of the Pashalok of Belgrade and thought it would be a good idea to massacre some Serbian chieftains and rebel against the Ottoman Empire, which led to the Serbs of the Pashalok of Belgrade rebelling against the Dahis. Our boy, Black George, was instantly and unanimously elected leader of the Serbian forces at an assembly of the surviving Serbian chiefs in February that year. The Dahis rebellion was only made possible due to the Ottoman Empire having to relocate a lot of soldiers from the Balkans to Egypt, because a certain chap called Napoleon was giving them trouble at the time. The Dahis promptly stripped the Serbians of all the privileges that they have been granted earlier. They also went along the countryside killing peasants, looting properties and setting homes on fire, just like a recreational thing, which made the peasants flee into the mountains, where the able-bodied men formed a guerrilla fighting force. In mid-July 1803, Black George obtained arms and munitions from Austrian Serb merchants in Zemun, after which he dispatched couriers through Šumadija, calling for a meeting of Serbian notables to devise a strategy for resisting the Dahis, who felt quite uneasy about all this. So the Dahis decided to preemptively assault the Serbian chieftains known as knezovi, or princes, killing between 70 and 150 of them. Black George narrowly escaped being killed in the 2-month massacre, which came to be known as the Slaughter of the Princes, or Seča Knezova in Serbian. Upon killing the Serbian princes, the Dahis impaled their severed heads on wooden stakes and put them on public display. On the 14th of February 1804, the surviving Serbian chieftains assembled in the village of Orašac near the city of Aranđelovac to decide on a course of action. They agreed to launch a rebellion against the Dahis and elected our boy Black George without opposition to lead it. Black George refused twice, stating that his violent temper would make him unsuitable for this task, but the chieftains insisted, so eventually he accepted. This event marked the first Serbian uprising. The Serbian rebels numbered around 30,000 men. They were also joined by local Muslims who were unhappy with the Dahis. They also appealed to the Sultan for assistance against the Dahis, who have since rejected the authority of the Ottoman Empire. The Sultan sent an army of 7,000 men from Bosnia under the command of Bekir Pasha to help the rebels, which the Serbs welcomed as liberators. The Austrian Empire sent weapons and supplies to the rebels. By late August, the most prominent Dahi leaders had been captured by Black George's men. They then proceeded to send the severed heads of the Dahi leaders to the Sultan as trophies. Most of the Dahi leaders have been captured and turned into hashtags by the Serbs, and by 1805 the final remnants of the Dahi resistance has been defeated. After these gloriously aggressive negotiations, wink wink, Black George and his followers demanded drastically more autonomy from the Ottoman Empire, which the Sultan Selim III did not like that much, so he promptly declared a jihad against the Serbs, no more no less, and ordered an army to march on the Pashalok of Belgrade. Considering that something of a dick move, the Serbians said shame and proceeded to kick the Ottomans' ass and introduced them to a series of defeats, capturing all the major towns in the Pashalok by 1806, including the cities of Belgrade and Smederevo, expelling their Muslim inhabitants along the way. And considering that the Ottomans were at war with the Russians at the time, and that the war did not necessarily go into the Ottomans' favor, Sultan Selim III offered the Serbs extensive autonomy, but Black George pulled a reverse card on him and rejected the offer because Russia promised to help the Serbs should they continue fighting. In the next video we will continue this story. Thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you again. This has been Champions of Stupid, and remember, don't pet alligators if you smell like bacon.